All right, we'll wait till 6 o'clock here. All right, it's 6 p.m. It is November 17th. This is the regular session of the Somerset School Board. I will call the meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alicia, can you do roll call, please?
Yep. Steve Bigelow.
Here.
Corey Miller.
Here.
Ian McDonald.
Here.
Lori Blargen.
Here.
Bruce Blargen.
Here.
Danny Erickson.
Here.
Matt Kugel.
Here. District mission, core values, protocol reminders are all listed on the agenda. If you just take a minute and review them, please. And when someone is ready, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Lori. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2 is public comment. I didn't receive any requests, Dr. Granville?
I did not.
No, anybody in the audience here to give public comment at all? Hearing none, we will move on to item number 3, the Spartan Spotlight. Did you want to tee this up?
Absolutely, I would love to. Yep, so we're going to invite Rachel Erickson up, one of our music teachers in the district and an amazing instructor. She does a lot for a lot of things that we have going on in our school district. Actually, Rachel was one of the very first people I talked to when I transitioned to the position because she emailed and said, hey, we're going to have a summer school play, and invited me to see the summer school play, and it was fabulous. And it was a good indication of just how much work she does to make sure kids have great experiences, and not just in the classroom, but in other avenues as well. And also a leader in learning about music education and sharing what she learns with others, and does a lot to elevate students. So I'm going to invite her up to share a little bit about all the wonderful things she does.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm very honored to be here tonight. And this was a surprise. I'm sharing a few things. Mr. Hutter asked me last week, and I was like, well, this is pretty exciting because I just came off of the conference down in Madison, and I was able to put some of the things that I learned right into action. And there's been exciting things that have been happening already this fall in my room and outside of my classroom as well. So we've got sharing knowledge and skills, and then opportunities and some student success things that we're doing. So the things that this touches on is the engaging students in education programming, reflecting, personalizing their learning, and establishing professional learning that increases the knowledge, skills, and collaboration of all staff to meet their needs of our students. So sharing knowledge and skills. The conference that I went to down in Madison was building vibrant communities through music. That was our theme for this year's through the Wisconsin School Music Association. And so some of the, as a person who's been teaching for over 30 years, I kind of went into it thinking, what am I going to see? Am I going to learn something new? You know, kind of skeptical. I haven't gone to a conference in Madison for, about 7 years. And I thought, what am I going to learn? And I was with an open mind, of course, and I was very pleased that I could find some things that I was like, oh yeah, I've done this before, but there was a refreshing way to look at things. So on Saturday morning after attending the 2 days of conferences, I sat down to reflect and write in my journal, and I came up with some words that as I reflected, renewing, refreshing, refocusing, and refueling were words that I thought of as I thought about my experience. And reassuring and reaffirming were 2 bigger words that came to mind. It was reassuring that I'm doing the right thing in my classroom. It's reassuring that what I'm doing is the right thing that I need to be doing, focusing on our standards and focusing good experiences for our students. And reaffirming that I'm doing I'm in the right place where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. CMP is a comprehensive musicianship through performance, which is a total program that is a Wisconsin-based program. I spent a week learning about this in River Falls a few years back. They had a session that was an overview, and it was good to get in there and review and refresh what the things were and what I could be doing more of in my classroom. Last year, during our 90-day programs in our district, we were working on vocabulary, and this year we're encouraged to do some of those things again. And so I thought, well, we can be doing that in my classroom. So dynamics, meaning the volume in music, is something we're looking at in our 5th grade general music. So my old approach, matching memory games, laminated cards, some of the fun things that kids can do. But the new approach using CMP, what I did as soon as I came back on that Monday, using a simple rhythm exercise and applying it to our handbell program. So I used a skeleton of a rhythm pattern, so four measures of half notes, using a C chord, so each kid only used 1 bell. And they decided which dynamic levels that we would use for each of those 4 measures. And so then they applied the dynamics and using the terminologies. And then the next class, we took it to the next level. I had them creating their own songs as a group. And so the one group was really excited about their piece. So I had them create a scene, a scenario. And then they got really excited, and I took a picture, and it just happened to be that I could use it tonight. So, and they were coming up with ideas super fast, so it was pretty scribbly on the board. So they chose Thanksgiving, fall, leaves falling, and I thought it was brilliant when students said, can we just use the black-handled notes? I thought, perfect. Black-handled notes are the same as the black notes on the keyboard. Pentatonic scale, no half steps, meaning there's no clashing notes. So they all sound, any combination of black-handled notes are going to sound great together. So they wanted to use the shake, so that's where the squiggly notes are there. So they were shaking at a really quiet level. And then as all of the bells crashed in when the big wind came. And then all of the leaves started to fall. And so we had the notes go from high to low. And then the next line, somebody wanted a turkey to come in. So the students had to test out a turkey sound. Well, of course, we had to do some white-handled bells because then we could use some half steps. So they tested out a few different combinations. And we found just the right ones, A, B flat, and B. And so they shook on those notes, and then the lower ones were quieter. And then we had hunters come in on quarter notes, on the low black notes, on the positions 4, 3, 2, and 1. And of course, we had to have gunshots, very loud, fortissimo. And then the turkeys were cooking, and then we had no bells, and everybody went sss. And at the end, I'm thankful. And so it was very creative, and I'm excited to see how they do on their assessment for their dynamic levels and see if they really understood it more by using the application and enjoying this experience. I had a lot of good positive reactions. They seemed to really want to get very creative, and so this was putting that CMP into action. Self-guided or student-guided instruction. Here's another affirmation that I had. They used this in one of the whole sessions was on student-guided instruction, and they were using guitars classes as an example. And I'm like, oh, I already do this. And they had some ideas that I could implement to kind of tighten up my framework as well. So I have students that after they learn their basic playing skills, they can choose which songs that they would like to play for their tests. I just have some parameters, like you have to have a 3-chord song, and you have to play, if you want to have a higher score, you have to play with full chords and sing along with it, or a different strumming pattern. The highlight for me, though, was Allison Wilkinson. She was one of the authors, and she wrote this book called Making Musicians, A Teacher's Guide to Emotionally Intelligent Music Instruction. And one of her quotes was, many, many successful people have music in their backgrounds. That's because the character traits built naturally into the music learning process creates the kind of people who are successful. And as I look around our room, I know that many of you have had music experiences in your backgrounds as well. And you know I've seen pictures of guitars and Dr. Grambo's things that he was introducing himself with. So bravery, confidence, humility, insatiable curiosity, feeling, and empathy. And I wanted to read just a little bit on community from her book here. Any musician will tell you that half the joy of playing comes from playing with others. Despite the vision some people have of a solitary artist in a practice room forever by themselves, music is definitely a team sport, a group activity. Music makers may train and be coached privately to build up our skills, but the best part of playing comes when other people are in the room making music with us. We go from harmonizing with our instruments to harmonizing with our friends to finally harmonizing for our audiences. There is immense value in the unique kind of community that forms between people when they play music together. There is an almost mystical connection between people who make music together, especially if they make music together a lot. It's the fertile seedbed of friendships, of group feeling, of the spirit of connection that creates strong societies. Science is proving these truths. Current research suggests that music making, and in particular singing together, creates a sort of bonding that occurs in the brain between a newborn and their mother. This is the kind of bonding that is needed to keep a tribe of people united. It makes members of a community more invested in the well-being of each other, which primes them for survival. Blending your voice and your sounds with the sounds of others brings you closer to them psychologically and creates understanding and affection that goes beyond words. Helping our students be conscientious of the community feeling and bonding that is created when they make music is crucial. It increases joy. It generates a feeling of purpose. Neglecting active musical community is something we must never do. Regularly bringing the value of musical community to our students' attention is a must. And what we gain from creating musical community-minded musicians, when a music student learns how to love the community of music making, they can understand the deep value in working together. They seek out collaboration from differently abled people, appreciate and honor the viewpoints of others, and they learn to work through differences in opinions and come to a common consensus. And as I read our Somerset District outcomes, and specifically our final learner outcome of positively impacting students' communities, each of these benefits of music students is directly related to our district's common value, core values, and our mission outcomes. And so I felt like what she was doing was preaching to the choir here in Somerset. And I thought this was pretty awesome. Reading music horizontally is like having your brain solve algebra problems without asking its permission. Reading music vertically is like having your brain solve geometry problems without asking its permission. And reading music both vertically and horizontally at the same time, as in piano music, is like having your brain perform calculus without asking its permission. This is Allison Wilkinson. So pretty amazing stuff. One other thing that Mr. Hutter was wanting me to focus on today was opportunities for all students. Basic music is a class that I've gotten to bring back this year. With the change in our afternoon target time schedule, things moved around for me, so I was able to fit this class in my day. Basic music is a class I brought back this fall to a small group of students with IEPs, and it's tailored to their skills and interests. So I'm currently challenging them to play songs on the xylophones, and I accompany them on the piano. I've placed colored Post-it notes on the 5 notes of the C scale. The students played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for Mr. Hutter last week. And now I've got 3 students that can play hot cross buns as well. And we play steady beats and rhythm patterns on our African drums and various instruments. And now one of the exciting opportunities coming up this March is the Missoula Children's Theater. Miss Heidi Miller is a parent of an elementary student. Their family came to our district last year, middle of the year, and she reached out to Nancy Anderson, and Nancy sent out an email, and I said, I bite, I'll do this. I'm so excited to bring this group here. So 2 professional actors will come with a big red truck in 2 weeks after our spring break in March. And the opportunity is for K through 12 students, about 64 placement spots, and our music boosters have funded the $500 deposit. It is a $3,700 bill, but the elementary parent group is deciding if they will be helping us out. They had a few more questions for me, and I haven't been able to get in contact with them, but we'll get in contact with them and see what they will do. And the boosters have said if we'll find out what they are willing to help out with and see what more we can do. But students would be paying a fee as well, and then we'll be charging some fee at the door. Heidi seemed confident that we will be able to make the ends meet on that as well. So that's coming up. And finally, our student success, Madeline Spray, was our student who performed on November 1st at the Middle Level State Honors Choir. We were so proud of her. There were over 1,000 students who auditioned for the 300 spots in the choir, orchestra, and band, and in grades 6 through 8. And they auditioned last April, and they met down in Madison, or in Verona, and they performed that Saturday night. So it was a long time to be down in Madison from Wednesday evening to Saturday, but we certainly enjoyed our time. And Maddie's parents really appreciated us bringing her down there, and Robin worked really hard with her learning the music and preparing her for that as well. And so she had to do the audition, she memorized a solo and did some sight reading. And when I heard Maddie in a lesson, right away I said, this girl, we need to get her in an audition. She is talented, so let's make sure she can have that opportunity to audition. And she succeeded. So thank you so much for the opportunity to teach here in the district, and I just appreciate all of your support And tomorrow night is our concert for the 6th through 8th grade, and we're really excited to sing on the stage there and perform. So it'll be a fun night. Thank you. Oh, I do have, Allison Wilkinson did share this with us. It was a free download, and it is the purpose of music, and I apologize for the poor quality of the copy, so, but she wanted me to share that with all admin and school board members. So,
Does anybody have any questions while she's passing these out? Comments?
With a project center learning like CMP, does it take a lot of extra time to prepare something like that?
you know, it helps focus your lessons, and it is a bit of extra time. Yep, but being a seasoned individual, I get the gist of it.
Get it done,
Any other comments, questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Now I get to go play orchestra. We need some more cellists
yeah. Oh.
when you're not doing this.
Okay, I'll dust it off.
Can I have that?
For my free time.
Item number 4 on the agenda, district report cards.
Yep, and I'll start that off. So we're here to share. Our report cards are finally public, and you know, it takes a while. It's a long process. Fortunate enough to get assessment results back earlier than we typically have, but then we get the report card beginning of the school year. It's embargoed for quite a bit of that time, meaning we can't share it publicly. Now we can share it publicly, and that's what we are here to do today. I want to talk a little bit about the role of the report card and some shifts in the report card. Sarah will lead the charge in sharing the overall view of the district and some background on the report card. And we have our principal team here to share the results at each of their schools. Pam can't be with us tonight. She's got a family situation she is attending to, so I'll take the elementary presentation portion. But a little bit about the report card. So the report card is a useful tool. I wouldn't say it is not infinitely useful. There are limitations on its use. They, being the state, often warns us, and Sarah will share, like, these are things you can compare, these are things you can't compare. When really, in my mind, the entire purpose of the report card is to compare. It's how we learn how we do and can benchmark against the state. There's some limitations when they change things so frequently. And again, Sarah will get into some of the specifics. But we do have 2 years of data. What you're going to see tonight is several things that are worthy of significant celebration and a few areas to increase our focus where things didn't land quite the way we wanted them to. When we talked about goals at the last meeting, and we'll bring that up later on when we go for approval of those goals, that information when we talked about state percentiles, that was based on the 22-23 23-24, thanks.
Yep.
Lost a year there. 23-24 school year. We didn't have the state data yet. We don't have that state comparative data we use until it goes public, so we have to download a file. So our goals were set based on that 23-24 data. Some things have shifted a little bit, and in some areas we've lost a little ground in that percentile analysis, but we are certainly recommending keeping the goals where we had them set. We don't want to lower our expectations because last year we didn't hit on all the measures that we were hoping to. The plan that we have in place, that action plan, is informed by the report card. So by the time we're putting together our 90-day plans and those cycle actions, we already had this report card data. So we wouldn't anticipate, based on our analysis of this current report card, a need to significantly adjust our action plans. Fortunately for us, our 90-day cycle is nimble enough that we can make adjustments as the data comes in if we need to do that. But we believe our plan is the right plan to address the areas of concern and also to continue some of the successes. Overall, the general description is achievement remains strong, but growth is an area of focus. That's the very high level. We'll get into more specifics as we roll through the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you. Okay, we're set. All right, so tonight I'm going to just go over the background on the report cards that I received from DPI because there were some changes this year. And so I will explain what those are to you. Feel free to ask questions as you have them. If I don't know the answer, I will work to find them out because things shift a little bit every year. That's one of the challenges as we work to interpret the data, is that we've dealt with some different pieces each year over the last few years. We will go over our 24-25 report card at the district level. So I'll get into some detail on all the parts of that with you. And then each of the principals will go over what their results were for their buildings. And they're going to also talk about what their next steps are, what their 90-day plans are. They're wrapping up their first 90 days right now. And then tomorrow we're actually meeting with PLC leaders to start crafting our next 90-day action plans. And then again, any questions and hopefully some answers if you have them for me. So I just want to clarify right out the gate that there is a difference between our state assessments and the report cards, okay? Last meeting, you heard me talk about the Wisconsin Student Assessment System, which is the Wisconsin Ford exam, the pre-ACT Secure, and the ACT that our students take, that standardized test. So that is the assessment side of it. Our report cards, on the other hand, they take all of that assessment data. They also look at non-assessment data, like attendance, chronic absenteeism, and graduation rates. Okay, so they're working, the goal of that report card is to give it a much more complete picture of the district, so it's not just based on standardized tests. Okay? They also will report on course and program data at the high school level, particularly with CTE courses as well as arts and music courses. Those are a part of the report card too. And then new this year, which I'll explain in a little bit more detail in a few slides, our third grade reading, those that met or and were advanced, and then certain state and local law violations, 2 new acts that were statutorily required. The other difference when we talked about our assessment results, where we speak about 1 year, the report cards are over many years. Okay, so attendance and absenteeism, that is a multi-year measure. 3-year measure. Graduation rates are a 4- and 7-year measure. And then this year, as I'll share with our achievement data, that is a 2-year measure, because if you recall last year, they changed the cut scores. So going beyond that doesn't do us any good. And so this year we have 23, 24, 24, 25 data in there. So why do we do it? Dave kind of talked about this already. It is the public report of how we are doing as both schools and the district, that multiple indicators over multiple years. So you will see that we have 4 parts to our report card: our assessment data, the attendance, chronic absenteeism, and graduation rates. Okay? This is a really good opportunity for us to say, okay, here's where we're doing really, really well, and then here are some spaces where we need to focus our efforts because we know we have some areas where we need to grow. So what is new this year? We do have some scoring level updates. There was a committee that came together this summer, and when I say scoring level, I mean overall scores, as far as what level is significantly exceeds expectations, meets, and so on and so forth, and I do have a slide a little bit on that. As I just mentioned, our achievement priority area scoring is based on 2 years of data, not the traditional 3 that we had before the cut scores were changed. So any score that is on our report card that has to do with achievement data is impacted by the fact that we have just 2 years of data on there. And if you remember to a year ago, I talked about the scale adjustment that they did some math in the background and adjusted because of the change in cut scores. There is no scale adjustment anymore. So that was just a 1-year piece. And so what you see in front of you for our report cards this year is math as it should be, I think. We do have some non-scoring changes as well. Test participation, federally, the goal is to have 95% of all students in a district participating in our state assessments. And so if a district does not meet that 95% threshold, there is a flag on the front, and I will share our piece with you in a few slides. And then we have 2 pieces of statutorily required data that have to be a part of our report card now. Act 20, which as you recall is the Reading Act for 3rd grade with our personalized reading plans. We have to report out the percentage of 3rd grade students who score meeting or advanced on the reading portion of the English Language Art exam. So when we look at the specific Wisconsin Forward exam, we get an overall English Language Arts score, we get a reading score, and we get a writing score. Okay, and so we have to just report out on that reading for Act 20. And then Act 12 is certain state and local law violations that occur on school property. And so it is not meant to assess school safety. And that one, it was new to us this year, and so that is also another piece that is in our district level and high school report card. Questions about what's new? If you would like more information within the document, that yellow link at the bottom, there's more information if you click on that. So this summer, going back to one of the changes with the scoring level updates, they did a report card standard setting where they had a group of people that met in June and then they met again in August and worked to adjust the levels that districts must reach in order to change their star rating, okay? So at the very bottom, you can see the big changes that we've had over the years. There was a couple of legislative changes in 15, 16. In 2021, we used to have a closing gap score. It was replaced with our target group outcomes, which I'll talk about tonight. And then in 2021, they also added absenteeism into the on-track to graduation. And then, of course, last year, big assessment updates that impacted the 2020 changes for both math and English language arts, as well as the cut scores. So this group got together and they had recommendations made to Dr. Underly, who's our state superintendent. And so the biggest thing that you will see is that there were changes to the cut scores for where districts and schools can fall as far as getting their accountability rating category. And so essentially, if you look to the far right, you can see that every category was upped by at least by 1 point, and then the meets expectations was moved up by 2 from where they previously were. Okay. And again, if you would like more information, there's the yellow link at the bottom. You can certainly click in there and have a read. Updates to our achievement scoring for this year. Like I had said earlier, we have 2 years of achievement data now. So we have 23, 24, and 24, 25 because of those statewide updated assessments. The 3-year approach is going to resume in 25, 26. And so what the 3-year approach does is the most recent year has your heaviest weight. Okay, and then you have a lower weight in the second year, and then the third year previous is the lowest weight. And so they take your achievement data over the course of 3 years. Each of them is applied a weight, and then they do the math, and they give you that average after that. Okay? So for this year, it's just 2 years. So this 24, 25 has the heavier weight over 23, 24. And then, like I said, no more scale adjustment. That was just a 1 year due to the change in cut scores, and our new assessments are fully implemented. And again, there's another, if you want some more information, I have a link on there as well if you would like to learn some more. Report card comparability. So as Dave said, that's really, we do use it for comparisons. DPI will tell us not to use it for comparisons in many areas for this year, given the fact that there was a scale adjustment on our achievement last year, and so our overall score may not be comparable. We are still going to show you our data from last year because we feel it's important just to draw that comparison. And so the chart on the right-hand side, the no's are basically anything that has to do with achievement. Because if you remember, we took out the scale adjustment, and so any achievement score would be impacted. And so where you can see the no's, that's where an achievement score would have appeared, and so they're asking us not to compare. But we can look at our growth priority areas, which, as Dave mentioned already, that is a space that we want to continue to look at, so we do draw some comparisons there. That make sense? All right, so test participation is back on the front page. a very long time ago, if we could gain or lose points on the report card based on the percentage of students who participated. Wisconsin got rid of that rule. However, federally, the 95% participation rate is still in effect. And so this year, any district or school that fell below that 95% rate would get a flag on the front. So you can see that is actually our snip from the front of our district report card. We exceeded expectations, and the yellow says 85 to 94% test participation rates. You can see page 3 of the detailed report. I just want you to know that we were at 94.2 for ELA and 94.1 for math. So hopefully next year we won't even have the flag. It doesn't do anything at a state level. You will start to get flagged federally if you drop really low. We are not in danger of that whatsoever. Third grade reading. So like I said, Act 20 created that section where we need to report out on how our third graders are doing on the reading portion of the Wisconsin Forward exam. And so that again is our SNP as well. As a district this past year, our third graders were 58.3% meeting or advanced on the Wisconsin Forward exam for reading, compared to the state, which was 50.3%. And so that is just for information. It does not feed into any kind of a score that we have. It's just simply statutorily we need to we need to put it there. Okay, so that's the changes. Any questions on all of that background? All right, now I'm going to talk specifically about our school district. Okay, and this again is at the district level. So that is the front page of our report card. And at the very top, number 1, it's the district information. It is our descriptive data of enrollment. It is our narrative at the top that we can see as far as that's what we write and provide to DPI. They don't make it up. We get the opportunity to put it in there. Okay. It also lists the percentage of students that we have who are open enrolled to our district. Okay. Number 3 then up there is our overall score. So you can see where we were 73.2. We exceed expectations, and then right there, now you can actually physically see that's where that flag for test participation lies, is right underneath our star rating. Number 4 is the priority area weights, and that is for achievement and growth. It varies depending on our students who are identified as economically disadvantaged. Okay. It really is, so for us, you can see it's kind of blurry, sorry about that. We have more, because we don't have a large number of students who are economically disadvantaged in our district, more of our priority weight is on achievement than it is on growth. If we had, say, 60% of our students who are identified as economically disadvantaged, you would see that flip to the other way. It's a 35% threshold. So if we hit 36%, you're going to see more weight on growth than you would on achievement. So that's a sliding scale. That is a weighting calculator. If you're super curious and you want to play in there, you can click on that link as well. So then I've talked about these already, but we have 4 priority area scores: achievement, growth, target group outcomes, and on track to graduation. Okay. And then with those 4 areas, we do have state comparison bars that are shown in gray below it. So at first glance, if you look at this, the front page of our report card, you can see that we are ahead of the state in just about every area when it comes to the priority area scores. Okay. This is, if you want to look at just that front page, this is where you can see the overview of it all. I am going to take you in and talk to you a little bit more about each of the areas, but do you have any questions kind of about just this first glance at the front page?
I know we're not supposed to compare, but what was our overall score last year?
I'm going to tell you that in just a minute. It's the next slide. Are you ready? Any other questions about the front page? All right, last year, we were at 71.7, actually, what were we at? You know what? I don't have that memorized.
You
Anybody
keep-
remember it?
I'll look.
Dave will look it
Okay.
up because I don't remember.
It's like 70.
Were we 70.3 last year? Okay, well, we'll see if you're right. Dave's gonna look it up. I'll put that on there for
I
next.
don't even wanna look it up, I trust you that much,
70
but I'm going
what?
to anyway.
70.9? Thank you. I'll put it on there for next year. Okay, sorry about that.
What are you, which?
So he was asking about the overall
Overall.
district
Mhm.
score. I did not put that on the piece. Is that accurate, 70.9?
7.8.
Thanks, Trent, appreciate it. Okay, so we did go up to 73.2. Here's also where we're not supposed to compare, but I did want you to be able to see where we were last year. We were 71.7. This year, we were at 75.5 for achievement, which, puts us at 78 point, we were the same or higher of 78.4% of the districts throughout the state. Okay, our English language arts score as a district was 73.6 and our mathematics score was 77.4. Okay, and that, if you remember, is all of the assessment data from 3rd grade through 11th grade, knowing that 24-25 was weighted heavier than 23-24. And just, if you want to know the math kind of behind it, any student that scores an advanced is worth 1.5. A student who scores meeting is 1, and a student who is approaching is a 0.5. If you are just developing, you do not receive any points. Okay, so they take all of that together and then weight it out over the course of those 2 years. Next year we'll have 3 years of data. Growth is the space where we need to put some of our energy. Okay, last year we were at 60.3, and this year we dropped to 56.5. No one here is happy about that fact. In order to maintain and be growing at the rate that is expected, you want that score to be about a 66. Okay, so 66 or higher is going to mean that you are hitting what is typical and or accelerated growth for students. So right now, we have some work to do in this space. Our English language arts growth score was 60.3. Our mathematics growth score was 52.7. So if you heard me just share those numbers, like you heard how our achievement scores were, and yet our growth scores were not there, so we know we need some work to make sure that not only are we moving kids from developing to approaching to meeting, but we're also making sure that those students who meet again, or those kids that are advanced, stay in that advanced category. So that it's not just students who have not yet hit the benchmark that are there, that we're moving everybody and growing everyone. So we certainly have some work to do in that space. The target group outcomes, we did see some growth from last year to this year. Last year we were at 59.8, and this year we were at 63. Okay. On the target group, this is the group, the lowest quartile of students who score on any of the state assessments that we have. Okay. We know who those kids are based on past performance. Okay. We have access to that. So it is the space where we know that we are going to need to focus our energy to make sure that those students are getting what they need to be able to grow. So the margin can change and the number of students can change every single year depending on how well our kids perform. But you're always going to have a bottom quartile, no matter what. Even if they all are developing, if they're all approaching and meeting, you're still gonna have that bottom quartile. And so those are the students that would appear in this target, in the target group. So the next slide then, it's like a mini report card is what you could liken the target group to. You can see it has the same 4 areas that our overall report card has in it. Achievement rates, okay, so if you look at the top left, achievement, you can see the target group is in green and the non-target group is the gray below it. Okay, so those are all our kids, okay, but it's our lowest quartile against our upper three quarters, okay? You see that natural achievement gap, okay? We'd like that to be closer, but it may just be there. Growth is where we really want to focus our energy, because we want our target group growing faster than our non-target group, because they have a bigger gap to make up. Does that make sense? Okay. And so as you look at the achievement and growth, you're going to see a wider gap on the achievement side. You should see a much smaller gap on the growth side. And really and truly, we want them growing at the same rate, but we know our target group needs to grow faster because they have a bigger gap to make up. And then the last two on the target group, we have our chronic absenteeism. And you can see for us, we are like 2 points apart. That's pretty great when it comes to our students who are identified in the target group versus our non-target group, which means our kids are engaged and want to come to school. And then graduation rates is a 4 and 7 year cohort rate. Okay, and again, bit of a difference, but not a huge difference when it comes to our target group versus our non-target group. And I do just want to put a little bit of a caveat in there. We had, last year we corrected quite a few errors in how we were reporting graduation. We were misreporting some of our foreign exchange students, which was dinging us on our graduation rate. And so we have corrected that, right? Still corrected? Yep. So that when it comes through, it is going to look as it should and not lower than it should have been.
So was this like students that were here and then
So-
left and didn't actually graduate?
So what historically had been done was students who were coming to stay here from another country, we classified them as seniors, even if they were not seniors. So they did not need to take the state assessments, and that didn't go well because then they look like non-completers. So we fixed that last year.
This year we had 5
And we had, we have,
exchange students in 1 year.
yeah, this year we have 5,
No,
No,
there there was a year.
where we had
We
5
had
that would
5.
look at non-completers. And when you're talking a class of 120, that's a lot of kids, right?
And that data lags. for
4 and 7
several
years, yep. So now we've corrected it, and so we should see that change, so. All right, good question, thank you. All right, so then the last area is our on track to graduation. And so last year we were at 89.4, this year we are at 91.4. And the attendance and graduation rate is from that 23-24 year. And then our chronic absenteeism, which is a part of this as well, is a 3-year average, okay? And so looking at that, we are doing quite well in this area. We are higher than the state in all 4 of the areas in this part, which includes also not only chronic absenteeism in our graduation rate, but 3rd grade English language arts counts not only in our achievement score, but in our on track to graduation, as does 8th grade math. So how our students do on the 8th grade math exam counts on track to graduation as well.
I have a question about that.
Great.
So how does, growth went down,
Mm-hmm.
but this went up? How does that work?
What, which one? On track to graduation?
Yeah, on track graduation is higher than it was last year, or 2
Um,
years ago, right?
Because our kids achieved well on 3rd grade reading and they achieved well on 8th grade math. And this has to do with, this is kind of the other part of the report card that has to do with engagement of kids at school with our absenteeism, as well as how well we're graduating kids.
So is it truly representative? I mean, or is there more weight put on like that growth score that's down?
So I think you could take a peek, and Dave, you could correct me if I'm wrong. If you looking at our target group where we're not growing, but the growth doesn't. So achievement is just how are we doing. The growth piece is, did we move kids that were developing last year into approaching, make them have some growth? Did kids maybe that were low meeting move to a higher meeting? So that's the biggest difference with growth. The on track to graduation doesn't have anything to do with growing kids. It's, are they engagement? Are they making it through? And then how are we achieving on those 2 big areas?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
So
you're fine.
the on track for graduation, I believe that the absenteeism and the attendance makes sense to track. The problem with including 3rd and 8th grade math or reading and math is that you're kind of double counting it again, because we're already looking at that somewhere else, so it just sort of muddies the water a little bit. But in terms of achievement versus growth, picture all of the students taking an assessment, and you stack them up from the lowest score to the highest score. There's gonna be a cut score where above that you're considered proficient, below that you're considered not. That's what the achievement is measuring. How many kids you have above that bar. Growth looks at every single kid in that stack of all those test scores and how much did they grow 1 year to the next. So they're both really, really important. Achievement is a more stable measure, and that's why we base our district goals on achievement. But in terms of what we do year to year and the work we do in the schools, in our classrooms, growth is actually a more important measure because we want all kids to be growing. If you stack up several years of good growth, achievement will climb. Conversely, if you stack up several years where growth is not where we want it, achievement will begin to drop.
Are you ready?
Sure,
Any
yeah.
other questions before I turn it over?
Yeah, I'm looking at, I thought I was looking at the page that you had up there that, had the 8th grade math and it said no results available. Or maybe I was on the wrong page.
Oh, gosh, there should be.
That's on the elementary. I think you're looking at the elementary. So
Oh.
on theirs, it'll say no results because it's not, because the 8th grade isn't in that
So
band.
what page were you on? What's that little number at the bottom? Is that page 13,
On this one? No, that's 17.
17?
But I don't, it's not, 8th grade math is not going to be on that one.
I'm
Oh.
slide 19. That might have been the one you were looking at, Lori. 'Cause-
That's what I was looking at, but
Yeah.
what should I have been looking at when Sarah was talking about 8th grade math score being part of the on track to graduation? Did you have a slide on that?
I did not, nope, I
Oh.
do not have a slide on that, so
Okay.
that is why.
Thank
No,
you.
yep, sorry about that.
On the growth thing,
Yeah.
I read a couple other definitions on those attached links, and it's really interesting. I'm gonna rephrase it, see if it's close. Like, achievement is like where you're at in the graph,
Mhm.
and growth is the delta of how that group did last year to this year. And so if it dropped from last year to this year, it's like, okay, something changed, whatever.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And since you just recently got those numbers, does it take more to unpack to be like, okay, numbers are numbers, but ultimately what do we think that is causing that and what are we gonna do about it? And that part is still coming in the presentation or later?
So you will see from the principals what each of the buildings are doing to focus on. What I can tell you is with, so with the growth, I don't have up here, the value-added scores, which don't actually go into the actual number there, but they give us a picture of, are we growing kids at the same rate as kids across the state who are in similar situations? So students with IEPs, take away all other things, compare them to students with IEPs across the state, are we growing them at the same rate? And that's that graph that appears underneath here.
Yeah.
And we hit that, you wanna hit that 3.0 line, and you can see on there that we are not at that 3.0 line. There are some spaces in our district where we are at or over it, and so we need to look at those more carefully, and that's what we do. And then, one of the things that we're going to do tomorrow with our PLC leaders is look at specifically who are our students that are within our target group, because it's a forward-looking document,
Yeah.
and so what can we make sure that we do to impact that piece?
So that's a really important point, because it's a really good question, Corey, because when we analyze that, we start really high level. Like, how did our growth look compared to the state? That's the first level. Next level is, how does growth look between ELA versus math, and how does growth look when we compare school by school? We're fortunate that comparison's a little bit easier here because we have one elementary school, one middle school, one high school. It's a little cleaner of a comparison than some districts that have multiple of either of those. So that's the next level. But then we get all the way down to, and then this is actually what Sarah's talking about, is several layers deeper, because then we're gonna talk about like by grade level. How did 5th grade look versus 3rd grade? And you start to make those comparisons, not to highlight what's not working, it's actually the opposite. You find those opportunities like, this group is knocking out of the park. What are they doing and how can we replicate that? and then all the way to what Sarah's describing, which is right down to the student level. So we start to look for patterns in what are we noticing in terms of groups of students or individual students that we might have to adjust what we do. Now, when we talk about individual students, that's not us. That's us supporting teachers to do that work with individual students.
Thanks, yeah. Yeah, and just wanna say, it's really good to see like the very transparent reporting of like, yeah, this area is good, and you know, that's what the real value of these things are. It's great, yeah, but we have to work on. What was a 64% guideline?
The 66,
Sure.
Growth.
The number you said that like, is
Yep,
growth
that's
kind of a
growth.
target?
so we want, so,
What does that mean again?
so 66 means you're hitting typical growth. Like your kids are growing at the rate that they would be expected to against the state,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
And you'll see that a little bit more on, like the building level report cards. They have it, you'll be able to see the 66 mark where the state sits at,
Okay.
okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And speaking of which, so I'm gonna take the elementary, as I mentioned earlier. So first thing, when we look at the overall score, you can see we went from 74.2 last year to 75.2 with that caveat, technically not supposed to compare those. Still at the exceeds expectation level. Then when we get into the priority areas, we'll start with achievement, right, 76.4. One of the ways, we are a district that achievement, we will always expect to outperform the state average. We would be gravely concerned if our achievement was below the state average. So one of the things we look at is what's that gap between where we are and where the state is, because that will tell us relative strength or relative area of concern. So you can see state average in ELA, 64.7, we're at 73.9, state average in mathematics, 68.6, and we're at 78.8. So well above, still room to improve for sure. Going to the right, growth. Now this is what Sarah was talking about. If we look at ELA, you can see that both ELA and math actually, that grayish line says 66. Meaning if you're above 66, your kids on average are growing at a rate faster than the state average. We always want to have that above the state average. Now, it gets very muddy when you look at growth, when you compare against a state. It's almost, growth is the one measure where we can get right down to a student by student level, and that's what we want to do. So that's the work Sarah will be leading tomorrow. You can see then ELA, we outpaced the state in growth at 69.8. Then in math, we fell short of that 66 mark, overall at 63.2. Growth there, I would say we are moderately below where we'd want to be. We're in striking distance. That's not a cause for major alarm. There's things that we'll be doing, I'll share in the 90-day plan that Pam and her team put together to address that concern. But even in this, growth is still our primary area of concern. Going down to the target group outcomes, again, Sarah explained this really well. You wouldn't expect achievement to be high in your target group because they're the lowest performing test scores or lowest performing students. So obviously their achievement would be lower than the average. So it's more important, I think, to look at growth and, well, actually all of the next three are very important with the target group. Students that are performing below where we want them to be, the number one thing we need is them here. We need them in the school, in their classrooms, with their teacher. So when we see really good attendance with students that are performing on the lower end, that's a good sign for high engagement. That's a really good sign that parents are doing their part, getting their kids here. That's fantastic. Growth, as Sarah said, also, we want growth to be accelerated for students that are below the achievement line. If they weren't accelerated and they matched our district average, they would actually never reach that point of being above that line of proficiency. So we look at that very carefully. Now to the on-track graduation, the three areas, the chronic absenteeism, school-wide attendance, and then third grade English language arts. As I mentioned, I think the first two are really good measures because they round out what we want to see in terms of how do we gauge our overall success. Putting the third grade English language arts in there, I think is a little short-sighted. The reason it's in there is because of a really strong research base. The strong research base says if a student is reading at grade level by the end of third grade, they're very likely to continue to be proficient readers throughout their schooling. That's really good to know, but to double count it here doesn't make a lot of sense. That's why in math, we see 8th grade, because there's a similar set of research that suggests that a student that is algebra ready by the end of 8th grade will be successful through their high school career in mathematics. But then to double count it there doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my opinion. Next slide is a highlight of the 90-day plan. So we are like right at the end of that first 90 days and we're moving into the second 90 days. In fact, that's why Sarah's working with the PLC leads tomorrow. First thing, they reviewed the professional learning for the top 10 tools with a strong focus on tool 7, which is fluency. The top 10 tools, that was our professional learning framework that we selected to comply with Act 20. Really good training on the science of reading. We're talking a little bit about what our next steps might be and how we can dig a little bit deeper with the science of reading and take it to the next level with some professional learning, but that's what the focus is right now. Also focusing on evidence-based fluency instructional strategies. So fluency is super important. Sometimes it gets overemphasized. I do not think that's the case in what we're doing. I think it's appropriately emphasized. We want students to be able to read fluently, meaning they're not wasting mental energy just on the decoding and getting their reading done at a rate that makes sense. Reading is most successful when students can hear themselves read. So that's why the focus is there. We're in the second year of math expressions. Pam mentioned this before. When you implement a new program, there's something that happens often called an implementation dip, which you invest in a new program, but the first year you see results dip a little bit. We didn't see that, so we feel solid there. That was good. Continuing focusing on professional learning needs for teachers, specifically within the resource. How do we deliver this resource the way it's intended to be delivered? Also working on math fluency. So that's math fact work. Again, sometimes overemphasized. When you teach math facts, it's not just about memorization. You have to teach strategies. How do you figure this out on your own if you don't know? But you don't want them to rely on strategies that slow them down so much. Again, taking that mental energy away from what they should be focusing on, which is the problem solving. So that is a quick look at elementary. Turn it over to Mr. Hutter.
Okay, on our middle school page of the report card, again, we don't compare, but we're gonna compare. You can see where we were last year, at our overall score, where we, this past year, say the 78, the previous was a 72. So we're seeing some things happening there. Our achievement, again, as Dave mentioned, comparing to that state score, you can see where our students in our building are performing better than their peers across the state, consistently there. Our growth scores, kind of your question that Corey asked before, you can see where we are living right at that area in middle school right now, of where we're meeting that expected growth or slightly exceeding some areas. And so that's a target that, as Sarah mentioned, as a district, we're working on together to live in that area as a district. Our target group, again, you can see moving past achievement there. We had some decent group with growth of that group. Again, those are kids that are coming to school. They're here, they're engaged, they're ready to be part of school. So that's the starting of giving those things moving forward there with that chance to grow. The one thing, and I know we've talked about Edmonton a little bit, the target group, that group changes every year. And so it's a bit of a moving target because that bottom quartile is not always the same. I know we mentioned that last year when we talked about this too. The goal would be to keep moving that up as the bottom of the bar for that group, as that score, because the kids that are in that group that we're gonna talk about tomorrow are not necessarily the same kids that were there last year. And so that group does fluctuate based on how kids move in the system and how they're assessed. And then you can see in our on track to graduation, again, chronic absenteeism and the school-wide attendance, we are doing well there. And our double dip of a score in 8th grade math, we had some really nice movement in that crew last year in that math area, especially as we grow from the year before too. So some positive movement there as a building. A lot of that stuff, I truly believe in our staff, this too is connected to how we went about taking on some things last year in the area of ELA So when you look at our 90-day plan that we talked about in our goals last time, we still have an ELA purpose, but you saw that our growth was a little flatter in math. That's why we added the statistical analysis as well. So we have 2 areas of focus that we're going about with a similar process. And then tomorrow we'll capture some of the things we've done to this point, to look at what we're doing, where we want to go, and things we've already started with, and then create a plan of how we're going to keep implementing that along with what we built on last year that we saw some move of our kids, because those things are still happening across the board in the building too.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Could we go back one slide?
Yep.
Every time I feel like I have a handle on achievement and growth, I like, so I look at this slide and I go, okay, 80.8% achievement,
Yep.
67% growth. I would think if achievement looks so good, why does growth not keep up? And then when I compare the two, you know, like ELA and math they both look decent, so why is the difference from 80 to 67?
So that having learned about it more in depth last year, here's how I'll try to explain it. That 66 number is what we'd expect if you and I were students to walk in the middle school over the course of the year. This is how much we're expected to move. And so anytime we hit above that, we are moving, you and I in this pretend example, in a direction that's expected or beyond in that school year. If a kid specifically is below that 66, or we as a building, then we haven't moved them consistently to the expected rate of movement. Because if we're moving them at that rate, our achievement is going to go. So those numbers don't, the way I did, if our growth number is 80 and our achievement would definitely be much higher than 80.
They'll never match.
They'll never match because you're moving, here's where we're supposed to grow, and if you exceed that, that's gonna grow and the achievement's gonna jump.
Got it.
Because they have a better foundation they can use everywhere in the building.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
If you were just slightly above that 66 every single year, achievement would slowly climb, because you're just outpacing a year's worth of growth.
Okay. Thank you.
Talk some more about that 8th grade mathematics score down there on track to graduation. Because, I mean, it's really little, but that's 86.8, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really good, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. One of the things that I think impacted that this past year, that had been a bigger group in our building all the way through, and we were able to give 5 sections to it last year with enrollment. And I do think that positively impacted that group. Our current 8th grade is in the same situation because of enrollment. And so your class sizes, even if it goes from 24 to 22,
It's a big difference.
that's a big deal. And just how frequently a staff member can get to an assistant student and just managing the classroom. And so I think that is a piece. Can I put a piece of data and stick it and it's exactly why? No, but I think that is a factor that did definitely help them in both math and ELA last year.
Great.
But they were always on the fringe of, are we a 5 section or not?
And in
And we-
7th grade, they were 4, I believe.
They were 4, and then we had the modified 5
Yep.
last year with our current 8th graders, so
Yeah.
we made it work the bump because we grew. So, yeah.
And the other thing is, that's just one grade.
Yes,
And the achievement and growth up at the top is the whole building.
it's everybody, yes.
Well, not the whole building, 6 through 8.
No, it's
No,
5-8.
It is 5.
So even though we're compared to a 6th through 8th grade middle school, our 5th graders count as a part of that comparison.
Okay.
So even though so that is one of, when Pam will look at hers at the elementary, they only have 3rd and 4th grade, where there's a lot of elementary schools that have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade.
Okay.
But because our middle school is 5-8, it gets compared next to 6th through
Okay.
8th grade ones. Yep.
The other piece, I think connected to math that I do believe made a difference too last year is we developed our intervention process the year before and then created a consistently of using a program to spiral in reteaching, give kids a chance to use Get More Math in their program. I think having that be a consistent practice that we were developing prior to last year and then implemented, I think also helped keep that foundation for kids as they were going to.
Any other questions for Joe?
All right, high school, so our overall score went down by 1.2. Our achievement score actually took a climb up this year. Again, I know everybody said this several times, where you're not supposed to compare year over year. That is our highest achievement score since 2013-14 school year on the report cards. And our math achievement score specifically, that's the highest math achievement score that we've had since the 2013-14 school year. As you can see, we were above state in both areas, ELA and math. Our growth score was one where we took a dip. As I analyzed the rest of the Middle Border Conference, all 8 Middle Border Conference high schools took a step back on their growth scores. 5 out of the 8 schools in the Middle Border Conference saw their growth scores decrease by at least 5 points or more. There were 2 or 3 schools that were in double digits in a declining growth. So there's a lot of us principals that are trying to wrestle with, okay, how do we see that trend reverse? But yes, all 8 Middle Border schools saw their growth scores decline from one year to the next. So that's definitely an area that we're focusing on. One thing I want to circle back to achievement, so ACT is a component at the high school that is measured, and that doesn't directly show up on the report card with the achievement score, but it does factor in when we talk about ELA and math. Our composite overall went up from 2023-24 to 24-25, so our overall composite went up. And then in 6 of the subcategories, we also saw an increase. There was one category, math, that stayed exactly the same from 23-24 to 24-25, but on the ACT, from one year to the next, we did not see any of our areas decrease on that. With the growth, as I'm hearing some of the conversations go around the table here, us all trying to wrestle with this. I was on the phone with a guy from DPI a couple weeks ago for about 30 minutes, just trying to wrap my head around some of this. And one of the things that I really wanted to get a handle on was, we can see a breakdown on the backside of students specifically to see, okay, did they meet low growth, medium growth, high growth? And there was one student in particular that went from a 6 in math as a 10th grader to a 17 as a junior on math. And we're like, that's gotta be considered high growth. But that student was considered low growth. And we're like, help me understand what this means. And the way that he explained it was, there's multiple years that it takes into it, because as a 9th grader, that student scored better than a 6. They were, I think, at an 11 as a 9th grader. Then as a 10th grader, they took a dip. So by 11th grade, they should have been higher than a 17 if they stayed on that trajectory. So what that was a big takeaway for us is, it's not just the one year to the next, you have to look at growth over time with that. So that's been a big mind shift for us. With math specifically, I talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were here. We're building a team right now. We've had a lot of instability in that department. Where last year we had 2 people brand new to Somerset, one of them brand new to teaching in general. This year we've got a new teacher that's very established on that team, so we're looking to establish some consistency there. And with the practices that the kids get in the middle school, to carry that over to the high school. And an example of that is the use of Get More Math. That's something that we know that is embedded at the 8th grade level, and we're continuing that over into the 9th and 10th grade levels here to help with that consistency. With the target groups, we were basically identical. We were 55.5 one year and then 55.3 this year. If you break it down further for us, and it doesn't show it on this graphic in particular, but our group, when we compare the target group growth compared to non-target group, our target group actually outgrew our non-target group. And I think that was based on some of the interventions that we started with last year. That was first year of it. And our overall math growth in achievement in the target group was up by 11.6 points from last year. And then finally, our on track to graduation continues to be a really strong area for us with attendance and graduation. We know that should only improve for us as we've been able to identify some of those reporting situations and get those cleaned up. But then as you shift onto our 90-day plan, kind of some of the things that we focused on, we've really tried to focus here this first 90 days on what are our current practices for grading, writing expectations, and assessments. And are we pushing our kids to the level that we know they should be pushed at? So those are some of the conversations that we're starting to have, to do some self-reflection, which will lead to some crucial conversations, which they need to happen to make sure we're pushing our kids. We're doing calibration within our grading, on our grading within departments. So if Joe and I are teaching the same department, we're looking at an assessment, he grades one, I grade one, and are we aligned on that, or do we have misaligned within our department? So we found that that's a valuable activity. And then one thing that we've also started here, we've completed our first round of student shadowing, where we have staff members shadowing kids throughout the entire day, that the kids volunteer to do it. And that's giving us an insight as, what does it look like to walk through the shoes of a student here? What does a day look like from them? Are they getting just traditional sit and get? Are they moving? What does that engagement look like? So that's good insight for us. It's something we have not done for a long time at SHS, and we felt was very valuable. And then finally, the last part that I want to talk about is our fall benchmark. When we did that this fall through Progress Learning, that's directly tied to the practice, or to the pre-ACT and ACT, so that gives us accurate benchmark data to something that is aligned to what they'll take in the spring compared to FastBridge. Additionally, we were able to do that in September, so we have that data much earlier than we typically would have had it, which would have been in December. And that's just a lot of months that we get back now with instruction to be responsive to it.
So, Trent, with the growth, if you're, let's say you're an 8th grader, is that also part of your growth as in the high school? Does that get
If
affected?
they were, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if they were meeting last year, we need to keep them at least at that meeting or continue to grow them.
So, Sarah, so does this, on that chart, our kids get numbers and we can see where they're at, but if they're meeting, but they don't go to exceeding, does that negatively affect on the growth? If they're already an exceed kid and they don't, not that they don't stay exceeding, but they're still exceeding, but they're not getting any higher exceeding, does that negatively affect?
They're not growing, I mean, so it will affect on the growth side, it's not
Yeah.
going to affect on the achievement side.
So, I'm just wondering, on some of this growth, we have a lot of kids who get bumped in math and who are ahead as 8th graders,
Yep.
taking high school stuff forward. So, I mean, a lot of them are ahead. But when they get to high school, well, they haven't taken, they're taking algebra as 8th graders, or does that end up kind of negatively affecting us maybe in the high school at somehow for the growth portion, if they're already up at, some of those kids are already taking those algebra classes where they need to be at to achieve at a level as a end of high school as an 8th grader?
So they may not have the high growth because they don't have a high amount of growth to gain, right? Like, because if they're already achieving at a near, like, 100% level, right? Like, they're in the upper 90s,
Yep.
they don't have 5 points to grow. You can't go over 100, right? And so their growth may not be high because they don't have a large amount of growth to make. As long as they're not going backwards,
Right.
that's a good, that's where, because we can, like, identify who those kids are,
Right.
and we can look at those kids and say, okay, well, if so-and-so is taking this in 8th grade, they should be, if they're taking it in 8th grade, they should be able to perform well later on, but what do we need to make sure that they're not losing those skills, which is why we're utilizing Get More Math at that 9th and 10th grade level, and then it becomes almost, for some of those students who maybe take algebra in as a freshman, or as an 8th grader, and they don't see it, then it's our job to make sure that they haven't lost those foundational
Who
skills.
meets with these kids to tell them if they've grown or not?
So when we did the fall benchmark with Progress Learning, their advisory teacher goes through their score report with them.
So that advisory teacher will say,
They can see where they're at.
so you were supposed to be here at the beginning of the year and you're not, so
Yep. And then we put them in, if they aren't
This is
at
why you're
benchmarks, we
doing
put them in intervention.
this program, this is where we wanna get you back on. Okay,
And we also.
as fun as those difficult conversations are, I mean, do we really have that advisory teacher going to that kid and saying, you didn't meet it, this is where I need you, this is our goal of our school here, like,
Well, and remember that what they're using at the high school, Progress Learning, it is tied to the pre-ACT Secure and the ACT. It is not like a perfect match, but it gives them, so their fall is like really their baseline. Okay, here's where you were. But because what they took last spring was an end-of-year assessment, so you have a sophomore who took the pre-ACT Secure as the end-of-the-year freshman. They're gonna take the pre-ACT as a sophomore in the fall. The benchmark is a little bit different because that was an end-of-year assessment. So we really have to use this, the power is gonna be in January when they take it again. Here's where you were in September, here's where you are in January. Here's what your predicted growth was supposed to be for this amount of time. We didn't get there. We need to try to do something different because we know that the ACT or pre-ACT Secure is coming up in March.
How do we engage their parents and their family
Yeah,
and
great
whoever
question.
else?
Great question. So we send the score reports home with them. We know probably 5% of them actually make it.
Okay, how do we get that so that the parent actually sees it?
Yep, so we push a message out with that, and I think we got 2 or 3 messages from parents requesting score reports.
Okay, not to be a pain in the butt here, but how do we get the parents to understand what that number is?
Because
'Cause
we
what-
spent,
You just told me that,
Yeah.
but that means nothing. Matt, did you get it from the high school? Do you have any idea?
No.
Danny?
I have a senior, so I didn't vote for Matt.
But what
for
about the other
everything.
years? Have you got it?
Yeah, yep,
You've seen
I
it?
do
Oh,
remember.
I've seen the notes come home, yeah.
Okay. So do you know what it means? It's growth, you obviously don't know what growth means.
Well, I mean, I have, we talked about this last year, I have the best handbook because I've sat here for year after year after year. I mean, I think the majority of parents, I think it's a tough spot, right? The majority of parents, either they care or they don't care, and they don't know what they don't know. And I don't know how we ever.
I'm just
probably
saying,
that.
if this number is crap right here, I mean, it's bad. And if we wanna grow, well, we gotta engage not just the people in this little table, the 5 of us here, the 7 of us, and you guys. Like, how do we get more interaction from those parents to understand what it actually means, and hey, this is where your kid is, this is where we need them.
And one of the strategies we've tried to implement with the response in the fall benchmark is with our target groups. So if kids aren't at benchmark, we get them into interventions. Again, Progress Learning has very specific study plans for them based on the skills or the subsections that they didn't do well in. And even with that, you get some pushback from some parents on they don't want their kids in those intervention groups, and we have a responsibility to meet their kids and provide them with the skills. So, not that that's an overwhelming push, but you do face some of that of, well, my kid's just not a good test taker. They don't need the support. Well, we need to help them build the skills. So,
I mean, I know I'm kind of jumping in here a lot, but I'm just saying, in middle school, if we're doing a pretty good thing in middle school, and now we're having this dip in high school, I get different things can happen in high school, but like, you know, we should be able to keep that same group at a steady. I mean, we have that many 8th graders who are proficient or
but we
achievement in math.
also have had that high turnover in the math department. And
Yeah.
and that, I mean, it makes a huge difference, you know.
I guess I'll keep pushing,
It's-
every week here. This is a parent, this is a community, people, we all need to help with this.
Yeah, it's a
not just
three-way
the-
partnership. It's student, staff, and families all have to, if we can all be aligned, we'll certainly get the best results possible. Part of that, the thing is, the people that are ultimately responsible for that are us. It's the adults in the school district to figure out a way to do exactly what you're describing. What Trent was describing is the most important piece. It's that advisor relationship. Being in a high school can be overwhelming. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of competing priorities for their attention. So having that relationship between an advisor and a student where you can have those conversations, having student-led goal setting, having the student engage in, okay, this is where I am, what are my next steps? Those are the sorts of strategies that we're gonna be exploring. But you're right, I mean, we don't wanna move backwards. That's what, when I opened up the comments, I was talking about the fact that we use these results to compare between schools. So one of the things we're doing is saying, okay, middle school, obviously that's a report card you'd wanna pin on your refrigerator at home. It's outstanding. We wanna learn from that and go, okay, what's happening there that's allowing for that level of growth and that level of achievement? And how can we replicate that, both high school and elementary actually? The elementary growth was strong, but there's areas for improvement there as well.
No, I agree. Just something like, I mean, do we ever pair students with teachers, like advisors, like specific teachers that fit them, like to to make sure that they're going to be engaged with that student, you know, like.
Talking like personality wise?
Yeah, like a student who's really into, the music,
So we've had,
they're
I
not
would
paired
say,
with a math.
over the years, obviously being principal year 2, but working with Sarah, like we've had a few kids where we knew that was a better fit to be with this person to start their day.
Yeah.
So we have done some of that stuff intentionally to help what Dave's talking about. It's not a perfect fit all the time, because sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's okay. But yeah, there's practice where we've done it in middle school over the years, so we've done it a little bit to try to ease that transition, that part of, you talked about engagement, that absenteeism or just attendance. There's a reason to come to school that's other than just school.
Right.
And so, I think, I know we've done some at the middle school.
And I can say, in my first year here, I've been very, very impressed with the seriousness that we take advisories. It's really easy to put that on the back burner and not focus on it, and that's not happening here. It is something that's invested in, it's something people take seriously, and it gets increasingly difficult. At the high school level, it can be really challenging. You went to school to be a social studies teacher and that's your thing, and you're like, oh, this advisory thing, that's really not my jam. That is not the case at Somerset High School. The teachers are into it. They're very focused on creating strong, meaningful relationships. What we're gonna work on, I've talked before about that warm demander concept, the idea that you develop really strong relationships and you leverage them for higher expectations. That's the work that we will continue to do. It's not gonna be hard work here because the relationships are important to the staff members.
I have a question, Trent. Do parents know when their kids are in intervention, when they're placed in that?
Because we move kids in and out so frequently, there's not like a direct thing that's sent home on a blanket.
It might be good for
Yeah.
parents to know.
Yeah, and I really appreciate Bruce's emphasis on the parent thing. I'm with you 100%. I think it's a huge factor. But I also, try to think of it from another perspective, and even for myself, and a lot of kids, and what public school is supposed to be. For the kids that maybe don't have the best parent life, it may be the place where, regardless, they still have a chance to be extremely successful. So, I don't want to make that an excuse, parents, so we're gonna lower this bar, right? And so for me, it's, and to bring in another element of just perception of what I hear out there, talking to a lot of parents and stuff too, there is this perception, I don't know if it's tiny or big, that this day and age, the biggest battle is we're just a little softer, we have a harder time admitting when things aren't as good as they were, and I see a little bit, and I don't know if it's just generational gap, whatever, but sometimes the kids, it takes a while and they're like, whoa, wait, you're really not doing good? Man, I wish I had, known a few weeks ago or a month or two ago that this test wasn't going good or this subject wasn't going good. So that feedback loop that we're talking about too, maybe just brainstorming.
What would it take to get parents to the advisory meeting with the kid when the advisor's going through the?
So one of the things we're brainstorming is just even conference nights on how we can reshape that too, of just being able to do some different presentations on these types of things. So that's actually a feedback form we're gonna be pushing out in our December newsletter that comes out to parents to give us some feedback on how we can engage them more and what types of those presentations would be beneficial, not just with achievement, that's a huge part of it, but other topics too. So that's one strategy we're gonna try to take to get some feedback.
Do you have any idea of the conference attendance percentage, rough estimate?
Not great at the high school. And this year's maybe not the best example because there was away volleyball, middle border cross country meet. What else was going on that night? Boys soccer playoff game and football still in season. So 4 of our fall sports all had things going that night. But yeah, it wasn't great this fall.
And my last question, is there any way to force some type of interaction to say that you've interacted, if the parent didn't come to conferences to to say we check the box, we have reached out X number of times, or we've talked to them on the phone, like, is there any way to do that, or is that crossing the line?
It's not crossing the line.
Okay.
No, not at all. I think,
28 hours in the day.
I mean, I'm not saying it's, you just flick a switch and it's done, but in terms of our responsibility to be the ones that will initiate engagement and not accept the fact that engagement didn't happen, that is on us. That's our job.
I'm just saying, the parents that come up, that show up at conferences, right, that's, cross them off the list, but if there's a parent you haven't seen for 2
Yeah.
years, what are we doing to reach out and engage them?
And there's an interesting thing that's happened culturally. Now, last meeting, we were talking about cell phones. For whatever reason, we've invested a lot, when I say we, education in general, not just Somerset, in ways we can streamline communication. So we have more communication going out to families than we ever have, ever before in the history of education. There's more communication going out, but there's less conversation happening. So I would like to turn that back a little bit and focus more on some of the conversation, less on like email blasts and reports that don't have the personal connection. Because if we're trying to engage a parent that for whatever reason maybe feels disengaged, and often what happens is if you have a parent that didn't have a real great school experience, they're not real excited about talking about school. So it becomes even more important for us to reach out and bridge that gap. So if we can do that and we can have more personal conversations with the amazing teachers we have here, we will get more families engaged.
Anyone else in high school? Questions, comments? Sorry, Trent, were you all done? Anything else you want to add?
All right, then just to wrap this up, if you didn't catch it, based on all of the slides that we talked about, growth is going to be our biggest area of focus in all of the buildings and across the district. We want to make sure that we are growing our kids, whether they have a big way to grow or a small way to grow. We want to make sure everyone is growing. You heard a little bit about the first 90-day plans from the principals tonight. We really, every time we get together with our PLC leaders to plan what actions can we take, what can we control to move the needle? Okay? And that's why these 90-day plans are great, because we get the chance to look back and say, all right, here's the things that we did, here's the impact we saw, now what? Now, do we need to continue to replicate? Do we need to abandon something? What do we need to change? And so that is the work we're going to do tomorrow with our PLC leaders in the afternoon. And then we will set up our plans for, second trimester, essentially up through March 4th. And then as we were building our goals, which you heard the last time we were together, we really kind of came up with, Dave is really good at putting some things together, and he said, really we're talking about how can we be clear, have that clarity, how can we have consistency across the district, and then how can we all take that collective responsibility? Okay, how can we as a staff take that collective responsibility for our students, for their growth, for their achievement? And so I'm hoping that you saw through our goal work the last time that there are some themes that are pretty similar work that we're going to do. Because if we can streamline the work that we're doing and focus on those pieces, our action plans will look similar, and we will really address the needs of our kids and of our staff to make sure that they're supported in their learning so that they can better support our kids. So growth in general is going to be our big one, and we're going to do a whole lot to work on that growth for our kids. So that was our report card presentation. That was a lot longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah, Matt
Sorry
asked,
about
did you
that.
get this done in 20 minutes? We might push it. Didn't we?
I suppose I could have gone on double speed.
Probably
but-
one of the most important things to talk about, is it
Yeah.
not?
It is, yeah, we appreciate the questions.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Anybody have any other questions at all on this?
Thanks for putting this together and setting up, and it's tough to only hit on it, we don't hit on it just once a year, but you get that recap once a year, so I so appreciate everyone's time on it.
Anything else you want to finish with?
No, just that, well, yes, that I'm super proud of the team because we really have put a lot of time into it and went to it with sort of a blank slate. We talked about that 12 years of shared experience in the current positions in our entire admin team. So we're a very young team and we're learning how to work together, but 204 years of experience in education, and we're leveraging that to make sure that we can learn together. And it's been fun. Everyone is digging in, and we're confident we're going to see things move in the right direction.
So will we get an update for the next 90-day?
Yes,
There'll be no new benchmark numbers, but we'll hear an update at least.
exactly, yep, yep. So we'll have, yeah, the next batch of 90 days.
March.
Yep.
or so.
Mark, yep.
Yep, exactly.
All right, next on the agenda, item number 5, reports, listening session summary. Nobody in attendance? Okay. Superintendent update.
All right, so the first 2 referendum invoices are very straightforward. We are almost there. In fact, we're talking to Eric from Market and Johnson. He believes 1 more billing cycle and we'll have that wrapped up. Financial reports are the typical reports. You can see cash flow summaries. I do want to spend a little bit of time on the enrollment report just to talk this through. It's important to look at this frequently because as we said, there's different ways to look at enrollment. This look is the kids we have in our schools that we're educating. That's what this is looking at. And you can see there continues to be some shifting. I'm surprised that the changing is still happening as frequently as it is. Got 3 more this week already, so it's Monday, 3 today of shifts. Now it's one family like moving to another state, but things are still shifting around. So what are we doing about it? Now we're at that point to start talking about what are we going to do about enrollment. The first thing that we're doing is spending time talking about who are we, and that's actually the name of the activity. That's the Who Are We activity. Talking about what makes us special. So if you are in a different community and you're looking for a different option, why would you choose Somerset? And if you're currently in Somerset, why is this the best choice for you? Originally, we were talking very high level, like district perspective, and we're not done with that, but it is coalescing around a couple concepts. One is that it's a small town feel with a lot of opportunity. We want to capitalize on that. We want people to understand that their kids are going to be way more than just a number if they're here in our district. But that conversation now is starting to take the next level about how about we look like department by department, because we have some amazing stuff happening. Like what makes us special in the world of career and technical education? What makes us special in the world of music? Highlighting those things so people can say, yep, there is something different here. So that's the work we're doing. We'll then use that as a marketing tool so we can start to advertise. What are we all about? So not only internally but externally folks can see that, and hopefully we can slowly see that enrollment trend move in the positive direction for us. Any questions on that?
Any questions on financial reports at all? Anything else?
Nope, that's all I've got.
All right, item number 6, Neola, this is a technical correction to policy 1100.
Yes, so yeah, if you open it up, you'll see the green portion that's highlighted. That's the change. Trying to find the best way to have the org chart visible. So what we have here is a direct link. So at any point if someone's in the board document, they just click on that and that will bring up Alicia's handiwork. She created the org chart. Looks very nice, Alicia, thank you. And this way, if we do need to make a change for whatever reason, we change this one document, it'll change in the handbook, it'll change in the board policy. So that's all that was about.
Questions on that? Excellent. Item number 7, items for approval. There's 3 things here. Do you want to talk about C quick, and then in case everyone wants to make a motion
Yeah.
for everything?
Yeah, that'd be great. C is the only one that we really wanted to talk about in any detail unless there's questions for the others. So we spent quite a bit of time at the last meeting at the work session talking about our goal structure, and we appreciated the engagement and the questions. And we're excited to watch that work, which is completely aligned to what we just talked about with the report card. We're looking forward to seeing that bear fruit. In terms of what the request is for action, we would like the board just to approve the board level, district level goals. It's the first tab in that document. I believe it's the first tab still, let's make sure, so.
Yes.
Okay, so reason being, we believe that the board, you've hired me to execute the vision of the district, and these goals are at the highest level. There's one goal per pillar. We believe that we're gonna be best positioned to be focused on those results if that's what our focus is as a team. Team being board, and then me, and then all of us together. So how do we all work to accomplish this? That doesn't mean that the other goals aren't important. They're critically important. None of this district stuff happens if this magic isn't happening in each of the schools, in each of the classrooms. but we think that if we focus at that level, we'll be positioned best for long-term success. So when it's time for a motion, that's what we're looking to approve, even though we believe this entire document will be out there visible for folks. They can look at all the goals. We want to focus our attention on the district level goals.
Do you have any questions or comments on that? All aligned? All right, so just looking at all of item number 7, is there anybody that wants to make a motion to approve any or all of this?
I'll make a motion to approve 7A, 1, 1, and 2, B, 1, 1, and 2, C, 1, and then from the presentation, tab 1, board and district goals.
So there's a motion by Bruce, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Danny, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 8, consent agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve any or all of these items?
I'll make the motion to approve both of the personnel updates, the minutes of both of the meetings, October 20 and November 3rd, the board bills, and the donations.
A motion by Lori, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve, any discussion?
Just the thank you to the American Legion for both of those donations that they presented at the Veterans Day program.
Yeah, that was super generous, and Matt and I talked a little bit before, whenever we receive a donation that's unspecified, and they had a very sizable donation that was unspecified, we're always gonna target that to student groups, whether that is starting new groups or supporting existing groups, or scholarships for students that wanna participate in a group but don't have the financial means to do so. So this is another one that's exactly where that will go. So not only the direct one to the fishing team, which is awesome, that other one will go to student organizations as well.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 9, general information. Reminder, we have a work session on December 1st and a regular session December 15th at 6 p.m. There will be a listening session 30 minutes prior on that December 15th meeting. District celebrations. Steve, can I start with you?
No, we've got long enough, so I'm good tonight.
All right, Corey?
Just thanks again to everybody for all the hard work and great delivery, and Lori for doing Ski Club. All the kids are super excited about that. And that's all I got.
Excellent. Ian, any district celebrations?
Yeah, just thank you, Rachel Erickson, for her many years of service. She's done a lot for our kids, and thank you to all of our administrators for all their work tonight.
Thank you. Lori?
Thank you to everybody who organized that Veterans Day program. It was really good. And thank you to Rachel and Robin Madison and Eric Cassell. The middle school choir, the high school choir, and the high school band all performed at the Veterans Day celebration, and they sounded fabulous. I got to attend the middle school play in our new auditorium, and it was such a change from past middle school plays, and the kids did a great job. And thank you to Don Peer and Kristen Flater, who've been directing and organizing our middle school plays for many years. The first bus for Ski Club is full. We started a waiting list for a second bus, so if you'd like your child added to the waiting list, please email me. We need a minimum of 40 students to run a second bus. The first home girls high school basketball game is Thursday night. Please consider supporting scholarships for our high school seniors by purchasing those 50/50 tickets, so when you come to the basketball game. The food drive at the elementary school ends this Thursday, so there's still a few days left to donate if you haven't already. But thank you to all the community members who have donated. It makes a huge difference in our neighbors' lives. And the high school store is having a Christmas sale, and you can go online and look at items to order if you'd like. They have everything from mittens to can koozies to beanbag boards. That's it.
Bruce, is there anything left?
veterans ceremony through that, that was great. And then, as you already hit on, the winter sports are starting. And then two, just, kind of just, what you guys are doing, coaches are doing the same thing, thinking outside the box, doing other opportunities to bring different people in, just to kind of help get kids excited about different things in the school. So I appreciate everyone just doing, always thinking something different, to have that little twist, like you said, to why Somerset. So thanks for all the groups that do that.
Okay.
Second grade concert is Thursday night in the PAC. And then I had a family member who's a veteran who came for the event, and he absolutely loved it. He looks forward to it every year. And so it was amazing. Thank you.
Lori, thanks for covering everything and always being so thorough on all this stuff, because there's a lot of things that fall through the cracks, so I appreciate you being thorough. And then just all of you, I hope that you found this conversation about growth and achievement helpful. By no means, it was just negative at all. There's always work to be done, and I think, as a board, it takes years to get to understand the growth and achievement and what this means. And I feel like there's only room to get better, so I appreciate all the work you're all doing.
One thing, I know last year I hit on it, that this year should be better than last year. If we went up a couple points every year, that's a win, and we're up.
Yeah.
That's why I asked, because we are up. I know we're not supposed to compare, it's higher, so that's, obviously we're moving in the right direction. If it was lower, people would be up in arms, so we did increase, which is great that we're there, so thank you.
All right, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second it.
Motion by Corey, a second by Bruce. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
No discussion.
Motion passes. Oh, I'm sorry. And we are adjourned at 7:41. Hey, thank